Hey guys, Kevin Ploe here from Yahoo Entertainment. Welcome to Build Series, the most glowing of all live online interview shows. I am so excited about our next guest. I might have to put myself in a sleeper hold and pass out. It's a wrestling show. Alison Brie, Betty Gilpin, and Marc Maron are here to talk about Glow, the spectacular must-see Netflix series about the 1980s exploits of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. These two gorgeous ladies and one very gorgeous man will be out here in just a moment. But first, here's a look at Season 3 of Glow.
Girls like you used for toothpick in Russia.
Well, this American toothpick runs on nothing but meat and wheat from the great state of Nebraska.
Oh, she's kicking it off with a drop kick to the diaphragm. I guess she's feeding her some boot. But this Russian's not having any of it. It looks like it might be over fast, but oh, wait a minute! There's a reverse sunset flip! Who knew this American and this Russian knew each other's moves? It's as if they've played each other before.
Swine!
You like my little slut ukulele?
Such a dirty mouth! I hope my daddy is watching!
Oh, darling, I'm your daddy now.
Guys, give it up. Team Glow is in the house. Hey, Alison, Betty, Mark, thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
I'm
for having us.
So excited. That was a great echo, by the way.
Delay was
The delayed echo.
I'm over here.
I love the shit out of this show. It is so good. I mean, you guys set such a high bar from season 1, and somehow this show manages to keep getting better and better. And I feel like it reinvented itself in the process.
Absolutely. It's a testament to our wonderful writers and especially to our showrunners, Liz Flahive and Carly Mensch. They created the show, and they really work to push the boundaries of this show every season. They never want to do the same storyline twice. They always want to be moving forward. And I think you can really tell watching every season of the show that season 1 is its own chapter. And I remember coming back for season 2, they were like, we're done with training. We've seen you guys training. You can wrestle now. We were like, great. And then season 2 was making the show, and now we're in Las Vegas.
What has you guys, I mean, Glow season 3 is now on Netflix, so I'm sure some of you have already binged the whole thing.
I've watched it.
You've watched the whole thing? What do you think? What's your review?
I thought it was very good. The acting was tremendous.
Yeah.
Sam was a wonderful character that really came alive in a different way this season.
Yeah.
And Debbie and Ruth were tremendous. Everyone's changing, except Ruth is sort of stuck.
Oh.
She was still tremendous. Just to clarify, I think he's just saying she didn't change. She didn't change that much, but
No, she does.
the
but
work
like,
she did
Because
was
she was already tremendous.
Always
Yeah.
I think is what he meant.
Yeah.
deeper stuckness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. But what has you guys most excited for fans to see unfold this season?
Yeah, I feel like along the lines of what you were saying, I think some of even my favorite shows in later seasons can get into a sort of run out of ideas fan fiction section of like, remember season 2 or season 1? Now it's season 3, the same, just rearranged. And it does feel like a totally new show in a really fun way. And so we're in Vegas this season, and we're doing our show within the show, Glow, as a Vegas floor show. So we're doing the same show over and over and over again. And it sort of becomes this sort of bubble of time that keeps repeating itself, where everyone goes a little insane and asks big existential questions.
I think it's like wild in this season where, because like hopefully we'll do a 4th season, and then you start to think like, well, what could that be? But there's definitely hints in there, but they're pretty subtle as to what could happen with the 4th season. I'm happy about this season because I got my own little weird story going, and Sam, I think, becomes sort of a more humble, kind of a more sensitive guy. Still an asshole, but but a little more likable. And I think he gets, kind of handed his ass emotionally a couple times.
It's like shades of assholery. Yeah,
Yeah.
Different shades.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's so many episodes I'm excited about this season. I love that it is a very introspective season of the show, and all of the characters, since they're doing the same show over and over again, are really looking inwards, and there's a lot of self-exploration. The 3rd episode is fantastic. Our show has always been a body show. We deal with bodies. We talk about, you know, women's bodies especially, and how they're used in a myriad of ways. And I think that season 3 really encapsulates the vastness of the way that women can think about their bodies and fears they can have about their bodies, and men too, and their mortality and things like that. That's such a great episode for that. It's episode 6. There's a lot of great ensemble work this season. We've always been an ensemble show, but I think being in Las Vegas, I think being outside the ring a little bit more is giving us the opportunity to delve into some characters a little more deeply than we have before. And there's a great episode in the desert where a lot of the girls are opening up, and it's really beautiful work done by everyone. And of course, episode 7.
That Alison directed.
I directed, so I'm probably most excited
Awesome.
about that. Thank you.
Nice.
It's my directorial debut.
Fantastic.
If I may say so, it's a beautiful episode.
I worked with her. It was tremendous to work with Alison as a director.
That's the word of the day.
Yeah, and did I use it twice?
4 times.
Really?
Yeah.
It's spectacular. It was a spectacular, amazing experience. Yeah, because it's a heavy Sam episode. You know, I kind of go down seriously, and to trust the director to make sure that looks right. Because when you're kind of faking almost dying, not to ruin anything for anybody.
I mean,
I don't think you're
It's
faking
up. There are no spoilers.
anything.
Get on it.
I know, but
Yes.
Mark doesn't give himself enough credit. He is a phenomenal actor.
That's very sweet. of
He
you to
has
say.
beautiful depths that he is revealing constantly on the show. Layers of himself and Sam, I like to think.
And for the record, I am a man with body issues. I just want to make sure that's clear.
It's definitely clear
Let the
to
silence
those of us that work with you.
you.
But thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah.
What's happening with my bangs? Anyone care to
That's
comment?
what matters. I also think, you know, I've said this before, that on TV shows that are successful and long running, it's sort of a gesture to kiss the ring, to sort of give the lead actress or actor an episode to direct. And I have heard that sometimes it can be a mess, that they're inexperienced and don't know what they're doing and walk on set and they're like, I like pink. I'll be in my trailer. You guys figure it out. And that was not this at all. That Alison, her brain is full of clipboards and ideas and paintings and photographic knowledge of every film she's ever seen, which are thousands and thousands, and she's also logged in more hours on a set than any director I've ever worked with. So it was sort of the opposite of being directed by another puppet who's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Alison would be like, okay, we're going to be here, and then we'll punch in, and then we'll do this. And have you ever seen Cassavetes? I'm like, what?
Completely, it was easy. I completely respect her as a director immediately. It was like, oh, that's Alison, the director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. The cast was so wonderful. And I feel like by that same turn, you also hear nightmares. I mean, when I tell people I directed, the first question is like, was it tough? Was anyone in the cast give you a hard time? And I'm like, not at all. They couldn't have been sweeter or more supportive. Everyone was so wonderful, especially Mark was on his best behavior. And some of the other women on the show would come up to me and be like, I'm nervous. I just want to do a good job for your episode. And I was like, I love you. I certainly was at a great advantage knowing our show
Right. There's the
inside and
comfort
out
level
and
there.
having a trust, I think,
Yeah.
from our cast. And our cast is such a dream. It was really fun to sit back and watch Betty Gilpin work in a scene. And, you know, often I'm in those scenes acting with you, thinking of you as Debbie and responding as Ruth, and to be a director just watching and being like, just let it run. No, just let them go. Just let them vamp. Just let them improv.
That's so funny.
It's so fun.
That was so funny that you said that, though, like, because when we're just acting, we do sort of maintain that weird Sam Ruth chemistry.
There's a great chemistry.
Yeah, and but when you were directing, I'm like, that's off, right? We're not doing that.
You didn't feel like you didn't think we had chemistry
That
while
turned
I
the juice
was
off, right?
directing?
No, because I really couldn't
I
do
was
it.
in a new mode.
You were totally
We were
in a
much
new
more
mode.
professional.
She's like
I
just
was
Alison
anyway.
now. She's not Ruth at all. Yeah.
Good. It was.
Yeah,
I
it worked.
felt
It
that.
worked.
And
Boundaries.
that's a great development because it's almost like life imitating art in a way because Ruth kind of worked her way into directing.
Ruth
those
wants to
matches.
direct. It was very meta.
Yes.
I'm not in the episode much at all, but my first day directing, we were finishing some scenes from the previous episode, so I had to roll right into directing in my Ruth costume, and was definitely like directing in character for the first few scenes. It was Mark and Britt Barron, but it was like right. It didn't feel weird to be dressed as Ruth directing. Everybody was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. What do you got for us?" It was really fun.
You mentioned the show's creators, Carly and Liz, and the writers. There are obviously some brilliant minds behind the scenes of this series. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Have you guys ever had the chance to sort of go to them with your own ideas and around your characters in terms of like an idea you had for an arc or a storyline or a character development that you've actually seen play out on screen?
No.
You don't
Not
go there?
really. There's like sometimes a line or two, but like not really.
Yeah.
I think that I'd lost a little weight, to prepare for Glow this season, but primarily to prepare for craft services.
Right.
Like because
It's dangerous.
well, yeah, but I just set out in between seasons to lose a few pounds, because I knew I'd eat between like every fucking take, and I just didn't want to not fit into my pants midway through the third season. But then I ended up losing a lot of weight, so I think they had to be like, well, I guess Sam's getting healthy this season.
So you didn't follow
It's
through on that?
right
You
then.
didn't eat between every take?
I didn't, and but I was definitely leaner, and I think that there's a whole storyline with Sam, exercising. I'm not sure that was the original plan.
I do think they kind of secretly weave in meta storylines of what we're going through as women in the world. I certainly in season 1, I've known Liz and Carly for a long time. I worked with them on the show Nurse Jackie, and then before that I knew them in New York as playwrights for over 10 years. So they knew a lot of the things that I think about as an actress. And then I'm playing an actress on this show. And I remember reading the second episode about how, you are treated like a Barbie, our scene in the kitchen where I forget what you say, but you're treated like Grace Kelly, but you're actually, I don't know.
Yeah,
the faces you make are too big, and you improv too much, and you're
I was trying to get
too
you to get me on the
weird.
show. I want you to do the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And it felt a lot like what they talked about their show Glow to me, that they're like, we see you, we see that inside you're a person who's like a weird homeless witch, and that you play kind of perfect Barbies, and we're making a show where you could play both. So I do think they lace that in. I also think this season is a real all boats rising season in terms of getting to know the ensemble in a way we never have, and seeing performances from people that we haven't gotten to know on that deep level. I sometimes feel like this season, it's a weird metaphor. My parents live in a little town that we've lived in forever. And do you ever do this in your hometown? Like drive around and you're like, how long has that house been there? And you're like, the whole time.
Yeah.
You're just now looking over there. And this season kind of feels like that, where you're like, what have you been thinking this whole time? And they're like, you wouldn't believe it. So I think episode 6 is very much like that, where you're sort of going into minds in a deeper way, or going into rooms where you're like, oh my God. And it turns out everyone's very brilliant.
Well, and I got to imagine getting away from LA and making the move to Vegas would be sort of a cast bonding exercise in itself.
Well, we didn't actually shoot any of the show in Las Vegas.
None of it was.
We stayed in Los Angeles.
did.
We were actually
You
deeper
fooled-
in
you fooled-
LA
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah.
Last season we were in Atwater. We were definitely in downtown LA now.
Wow.
Ontario, California, which
Oh
is
my God.
far away from Los
The
Angeles.
scary hotel.
Well, so you moved away from the valley.
We did.
Yes.
We did leave our little
went
tiny
south.
stages that we used to shoot at that felt
What happened?
like our little home. Are you
No,
okay?
she was laughing, and we
Mark
missed
just
your.
screamed scary hotel.
It was a scary hotel. No,
Scary-
Scary hotel.
It was.
Mark, we're live.
You get there and they
Yeah.
tell them. I don't want to get into it. They like we get to the hotel and they're like, "Hey, look, there's this guy that lives here that's weird and he's going to bother you, but don't worry about it." And it's sort of like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
guy calls himself Hollywood.
What is that?
Now we're giving him airtime. We're giving It's fine. All right. The truth is, there's this
Talk
guy.
about it on Kimmel.
Good.
Look it up.
Oh, great.
Google it.
Great. Oh, I'm
Want to bring it up on my phone right now?
Talk about it.
Did you
But
tell
bring it
the
up on your
ripping-
phone and play it?
Did you bring the
Yes,
ripping
that they
paper?
were like,
Oh
well,
my
first of
God.
all, they were like, the day before we were set to shoot at this hotel, where they're like, we're going to shoot a lot of the season at this hotel. And it's an hour away. If you guys want to sleep there, we were all like, great, yes, we'll all sleep there. And then the night before, we got an email that was like, don't be alarmed, but it's been brought to our attention. There's a homeless man who squats at the hotel.
Yeah,
he calls
great.
himself Hollywood, and he's obsessed with Hollywood productions and disrupting them. And then we learned
Like
that
the
his
worst
big
possible
disruption,
stalker situation.
And he just happened to be at the
this weird
location
guy. It's like
that
weird.
you chose.
which was the weirdest part because we were like, if you're obsessed with Hollywood productions, why would you stay at
2
this
hours east of
hotel
Los Angeles.
an hour away by the airport, by the Ontario airport that no one even knows exists?
Yeah. And now he's going to make a necklace out of our organs. But it's fine.
Was he the guy? Do you
Fine.
think when we were shooting that hot tub scene,
Yeah.
someone started yelling?
It was Hollywood.
Like it was from a room somewhere,
Yeah.
and we're in the middle of that scene.
We're gonna see
Yelling
Hollywood on Glow one of
obscenities.
these days, aren't
I
we?
mean, I never laid eyes on him. I was actually very excited when he was calling out during that hot tub scene because that was like my closest encounter.
Right.
Is that Hollywood?
Yeah, you
He's
knew
probably here. He's
the
going to
voice
stand
of
up and do
Hollywood?
like a Wonka roll. Like,
Well, what we did with the pieces of paper, we heard that his big prank was our crew was trying to set up and clean the location, and he went to the top of the stairs and ripped up a bunch of tiny pieces of paper and then just threw them where they had just swept. Like a
Thanks,
petulant
dude.
child. They were all like, really? You gotta-
Yeah. Well, it's good to
Okay.
know he sounds relatively harmless. Then,
Pretty
if that was as bad as it
I
gets.
don't know. He's a paper terror.
I feel like well, you guys did
Plague in the
not
nation.
shoot in Vegas, but I feel like there are two types of people in the world. There are those people that enjoy Vegas, and there are those type of people who are like, get me the hell out of this place. Where do you guys stand?
The second one.
I'm the second one now. I think when I was younger, like my family, I grew up in New Mexico, and we used to meet my grandparents out there, once a year when I was a kid, and they remember the old Vegas. So it was kind of interesting, like my grandmother would say things like, it was nicer when the boys owned it, like that kind of stuff. So she remembered when it was an intimate sort of situation. So the nostalgia at that time was cool, but now it's just horrible.
Yeah.
Like we were talking before about how, like someone brought up the fact that, it's full of kind of a sadness and a desperation. But I think in the show, I think the 80s, there was still a little bit of glamour to it. The sadness was sort of limited to a couple of individuals, whereas now it's really a tsunami of sadness.
Yeah.
in
There,
Vegas.
I feel like our season is like during the change. Oh, sorry, but Gina
Yeah.
Davis has a line. I think at there's a funeral service scene, and she's talking about like how people are now coming. People used to get really dressed up like everywhere, to go to the
Right.
airport and things like that. And she's like, now they're coming into the casino like in tennis shoes and workout shorts.
Exactly right. No
But
no
it's
glamour
happening-
to it.
I mean, it's happening everywhere. It's happening here. Broadway used to be like guys and dolls, and now it's like Disney porn video game. You're like, but
I'm on
Made
TV.
in Detroit.
Look what I'm wearing.
You look great.
Yeah.
I just have. You're right.
Put on
I'm-
a jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, technically,
You don't
we're
look
on
like
the
a porn
internet,
video
but,
game to
On
me.
the internet.
Look at his
Mark.
sneakers. Those sneakers are okay anywhere
Thanks.
you go.
Those are fancy.
What are
They
they?
are
These are Adidas.
They are
Yeah, from
Sponsored.
Japan.
fancy.
Yeah.
Fancy
Oh yeah, can I
Adidas.
say that?
They don't look like Adidas.
Yeah.
They look like a Converse thing.
This is my second pair. I had to order the backup pair when the first one.
Oh,
first
see,
pair
now
started
it's getting
dirty.
interesting.
Yeah.
Now-
it's not about me, guys.
Now we're going
It's
deep.
not about me, guys.
It's a second
think
pair,
our
folks.
season was less about the desperation because it, like you're saying, maybe it wasn't quite there yet, but more about the claustrophobia of being in Las Vegas. That these girls live at this hotel, they work at that hotel casino, they gamble in the casino, they eat at the buffet, like they're with each other all the time, and. Again, it all just comes down to this internalization that happens all season, that they're just sort of trapped in this place and forced to like look at their own boobs, which is why, just kidding, sorry. My miming it's gone awry. We've gone off the rails.
Metaphorically, their own
Triceratops mushroom.
Oh my God. Allison!
I'll save you with my next question. One of my favorite things about this series is the way that you guys so seamlessly balance comedy and tragedy and lightness and darkness. Always in the same episode, oftentimes in the same scene. And I think the episode 1 of season 3 is like a prime example of it. This is, if you guys haven't seen it, this is an episode that is very, very funny, yet it's built around a national tragedy of the Challenger exploding. And then you see it again in like specific scenes towards the end of the episode. There's a moment of silence that turns into a balloon fight. So, I mean, how impressive for you guys is it for you guys to sort of witness that dichotomy firsthand, and also how challenging is it to execute that on set?
How challenging. Forgive
Wow,
it.
well played.
Too
Let's move on.
soon.
I think that Liz and Carly and our writers are so brilliant at showing that side of life where when it feels like on paper it should be a music swelling Greek sad. Was it In the Mug?
No.
That would have been so sad if it was like, bloop. No, top of the patriarchy. Ah! Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I
And
think
scene.
Sorry.
Does that answer your question?
All done. I think they're so good at writing those moments when on paper it feels like it should be the most dramatic, serious moment of your life, and you're watching a coffin come down the aisle and you're like, oh God, I've got an itch on the inside of my butt that can't be itched right now, but it's gotta happen. And why is this happening now? And do I hear like the 50 Cent Magic Stick echoing throughout my dad's view? Like that's how life feels, that all the genres are mushed together in a very heartbreaking and embarrassing and hilarious way. And it never feels cool and it never feels sad or happy. It all feels all the things at the same time.
And also each character, each one of us has that weird balance of comedy and tragedy in our backstory, and then in what we're acting on stage. But then with them, there's this added thing where they got to get in these get-ups. So like there's a balance, there's a natural balance because of the wrestling. That sort of like it kind of molds it all together in a very palatable way. There's heavy shit that happens on this show, but because of the spectacle of wrestling and what they're kind of dealing with on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't get muted, but it gets integrated in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, it is the tone of the show. The show is written to have comedy and drama. It's. Are you okay?
First time I've ever had a sip of water. It was exciting.
We witnessed it.
Was that fun for you?
This is hydration.
My time.
I was just gonna say that it's sort of the best thing about working on the show. It's such a treat for an actor to get to play all sides of yourself as a performer, and we really get to do that on this show. The way that the tone is laid out, we can be doing the most broad work in the ring and then go into a scene that's heart-wrenching and nuanced, and like that's a super fun challenge.
And there's no jokey jokes, which is nice. Like no one's like there's no like sitcom-y kind of like one-liners all the way through. None of that.
Yeah, we don't have to abide by the math of comedy.
It's a relief, and it's like it's better to watch.
And there's an undeniable topicality to this series. I mean, as on the surface, it's clearly, a biting commentary on gender in the mid-1980s when it's set. It's a period piece in the aftermath of the women's lib movement. But I feel like every episode relates to something going on. There was one sequence that really struck me going back to season 2 just for a minute when Ruth is in the hotel suite. I mean, I think it struck everybody. It was pretty obvious. But when she's in the hotel suite with the TV executive, and it was pretty much the heart from all the horror stories we've heard, like the playbook, the Harvey Weinstein playbook. And from what I've heard, that was actually written and filmed before all those Weinstein stories came out, which was incredible.
It's sort of the craziest thing about this whole show. I mean, it speaks to how great Liz and Carly are as writers, and all of our writers are, that they just write these sort of societal truths that have existed in this country for many years. I think often they don't realize how relevant the material will be, and it's almost depressing how relevant a lot of it still is. But I guess it makes for a great cathartic experience for an audience to get to watch it sort of, and we're able to exist as a comedy, I think, because we're set in the 80s and there is a bit of distance, so we can sort of make that commentary, and people can choose to think about how relevant it is or distance themselves from that if they want.
Yeah.
I agree.
Alison, it is amazing how quickly you jumped from one fan favorite comedy to another. Community was a gem that we did not deserve.
Thank you.
Are you still in touch with the gang? What can you tell us? Is there like a text chain? What can you tell us?
There's a constant text chain.
Is there?
The most
That's what I
recent
wanna
texts
hear.
were from Joel McHale about his appearance on Corden with one Betty Gilpin.
Nice.
I think that a bunch of us are planning to go. Joel and Ken Jeong are doing a comedy show together, and we're gonna fly up and watch them do that in Sacramento. It's a love fest. We love each other.
Nice. What has it been like to watch Donald Glover just take over the music industry?
He's texting the most. It's like he's like constantly texting, calling. We're like, Donald, I'm busy. Like, get a life. It's incredible. You know, I definitely remember listening to Donald's first mixtapes on the set of Community when he first was like, yeah, I make some music. And we were like, what do you mean? Play us some stuff. And then we were all like, what? We always knew Donald is like a magical person artistically, and I'm so proud of him.
Betty, I have to congratulate you on the Emmy nomination. Please give it up. Amazing. So well deserved. So well deserved. What did that mean to you? How did you celebrate? What can you tell us?
It means so much to me, and also, you know, life is meaningless. I think, you know, it's just, it feels like a dream in the way of it feels not real. I think that, you know, I've been an actor for 14 years professionally, and, you know, only 3 of them have involved false eyelashes and crossing my legs and like sound biting and sexualizing depression and anxiety. And I think that, you know, for a lot of that time, I was making a living, but felt, you know, a little invisible to the world and career-wise. So now to feel so visible, and recognized, it feels like a great honor. But I also feel like I already know there's no wizard, so I'm gonna, you know, have this bacon wrap date and do scenes with a person who I admire and respect so much, and live out my dream, and then start my fecal pottery career.
I was not expecting to go there.
Wasn't expecting it either,
that was
honest.
unexpected. Mark, as I mentioned to you backstage, I'm a what the fuck nut. I'm a huge fan, longtime listener of your podcast.
Thanks.
I'm sure you've long done interviews as a comedian, but I feel like you're probably doing a lot more these days for shows like Glow and other things that you have on the acting side. Is that odd now that you're sort of pivoting back and forth between interviewer and interviewee on a regular basis?
That's a interesting question. Thank you for that. That was a fine interviewer question.
Wow, thanks. Thanks. Thanks.
Very good question.
Well, you know, what's interesting about doing the podcast is I spend a lot of time with people talking to celebrities and creative people for an hour or more, and the trick is getting around their public narrative, because once you start talking, you know, publicly over and over again, you start to repeat yourselves, and then it just becomes ingrained. Like what I'm saying right now, I've said fucking 100 times, and so it's really about trying to get around that. But being on the other side of it, I'm always like, I like being interviewed, and I like when I'm surprised by them. So I don't mind it. There's still things that I can talk about that I have not talked about, and there are things that the way people frame them that's interesting to me. I think if you're being interviewed by someone who's good at it, you can learn things about yourself.
Amen. Well, let's open up this interview to the audience right now. We've got a few questions from these guys. Who's first? Hi.
Hi. So what was your favorite stunt to perform?
Favorite stunt? The one that you saw just now, the move where I'm holding you like my tiny little baby and then slam you down onto my leg like you shouldn't do with a baby. I just felt very strong, and even though you weigh a chickadee on a lily pad.
It looks horrifying. It looks like, you know, like I get jarred by it every time I see it. Yeah.
Worried for my back.
Yeah. But it didn't hurt, right?
Acting.
Bacting.
I agree. I mean, I just love being in the ring with Betty. It's so fun. That whole match was really exciting. I love the sunset flip. We've both done it to each other. And then in that scene, you see me do it in a new way. They called it a backwards sunset flip. I just heard for the first time. Or
that one
reverse,
from the
reverse sunset flip, which I was like, oh.
From the corner?
News
when
to me. Yeah, Chris added that in ADR. But additional dialogue recording. But
did I know that's what it meant? I
didn't know it.
Yeah.
Is that what it means?
Additional dialogue recording.
Oh
I
my
think
God.
so.
You would think I would know that. I just see it on my schedule. You got to do
Anyway.
ADR in Burbank, and I'm like, what is that? And I know I go talk.
Yeah. You have to record additional
Yeah, it makes sense.
dialogue for the
It's
show.
exactly what it is. See,
Anyway,
I just learned something.
That's what Build is for.
that match was really fun. In season 3, in the first 2 seasons, we had a lot more time to rehearse the wrestling matches. And by season 3, I think partially because we were like, it's too much time now. We know the wrestling. They were like, great, we'll give you much less time. And we learned that match in, I think, 2 days and then shot it on a Thursday. And like, it was very exciting to remember that like wrestling actually does scare us. We walked in like, great, we probably got this. Are we just doing moves we always do? And they were like, we have 3 new big moves. Yeah. And we were both like, what?
Yes. Season 1, it was definitely like 2 people helping us with a flip and then being like, good job, you little starfish. Season 3, they were like, do it now, you're weak.
You do the flip over her, then she kicks you off. She's going to pin you, then you're going to get out of it. Like, yes, but that was really fun. And I feel like every time we come back to the sunset flip, we're getting better and better at it. But there still are moments where, like, the time I dived over you, we land, and we were staring at each other like, and they were like, what happened? And I was like, she were like, Allie's bangs just across your
trimmed
forehead.
my eyelashes.
Yeah. And we were like, that was a close one. Yeah. We're always like an inch away from a concussion. But
There's
That's
a
the
concussion
wizard
fan
behind
in
the
house.
curtain laugh.
All right, who's next?
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question for Alison. I saw you met Becky Lynch recently, and I'm wondering if she gave any tips.
You know, she is such a badass, Becky Lynch. She didn't give me any personal tips about wrestling, probably because what we do on the show is very different from what she's doing in the ring, which is much more advanced.
Olympian.
Yes, but she's just such a badass. And I think her whole stance on her life, she works so hard and she's really fought to get where she is as this champion. And that's incredibly inspiring to me.
Great. And one last question.
Hey guys, I apologize in advance for this question, but I'm going to shoot my shot. Do you have any esoteric advice for aspiring actors?
Does it have to be esoteric?
No.
I guess it's tough to give advice. I don't know, because everyone's journey is so different. There's a million different avenues, especially now with online content and streaming and I don't know, just every different type of thing people are doing to make work. I know people always say make your own stuff, write your own work. I think that is incredible. It's an incredible idea in theory. It's easier said than done. I guess I would prefer to give advice that's more about I was gonna say stay true to yourself, but it is what I mean, but it sounds lame. But I definitely feel like when I first started auditioning, I got out of theater school, which was so like my time to be super weird and explore every type of thing. And then immediately I was like, oh wait, they want me to be this one thing. And I took acting classes that sort of got me really in my head about kind of what I should be putting out there in auditions, like be exactly what people think you're gonna be. And there's sort of no way in an audition room to know exactly what the 4 people sitting in front of you are gonna want. And all you can do is kind of know why you're unique and special and your twist on this performance, and like go into auditions sort of with an attitude of, this is my time to do a performance. This is my 2 minutes to act. It might be the only time I act all day. So here's my performance. I don't give a shit what you think unless you have notes, and then we'll take those notes and do them for you. But, you know, rather than going into things with an attitude of, do you like me? Is this what you want? Is this what you're hoping for? I think coming from a position of strength, that a lot of stuff changed for me when I started to walk into rooms like, not cocky, but just a bit like, here you go. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I would say in my theater class, it was divided into people who needed to wake up and people who needed to calm down. And figuring out which of those people you are, I think is a very helpful step. And I also think, you know, not treating yourself like you have to put your life on pause until you get to a certain level and then you can do all the other life things that you want to do. I would say never choose the business because it's never going to choose you, ever. The second that I was like, I said out loud, like, well, it's been 10 years. I guess it's not going to happen. I'm going to let those 10 pounds happen. I'm going to marry my boyfriend who's been like, ready to marry you whenever you're ready. And I've been like, but my career. I did all these things that didn't make sense for the business. And then I got Glow the Wednesday before my Saturday wedding. And it just, I think the second you say out loud to the world, like, I'm choosing my own life, then it's like, where are you going? Where are you going? So choose yourself.
Am I supposed?
No.
You don't have to. I think we're out of time.
Hey, jump
You're
right in
saved.
on
You're
that,
saved
huh?
by the
Look
bell.
at that, guys.
You're saved by the bell.
All right.
Alison, Betty, Mark, thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you
Thank you
guys.
for
Thank you
having
guys
us.
for watching. Check out Glow season 3 on Netflix now.